Once there was a rich man whose wife died, leaving him with a little girl. After some years, he wanted his daughter to have a mother's love, so he married again. His new wife was a widow with 2 grown daughters. But the new wife was proud, and her daughters were even worse. The poor little girl had a very unhappy life with them. Her stepsisters were jealous because she was beautiful, while they were plain. They tried to make her miserable, and soon her life became very hard. They sent her to live in the kitchen and made her do all the dirty work. Because she wore rags and sat by the fireplace, they called her Cinderella. One day, the king wanted his son to get married, so he held a big ball and invited all the important ladies in the land. Everyone was excited because the prince would choose his bride from the guests. Cinderella's stepsisters got invitations and spent all their time talking about their dresses, hoping to catch the prince's eye. When the day of the ball finally arrived, they started getting ready right after breakfast. Cinderella had to help them all day with their hair and dresses. She wished she could go to the ball too, but when she asked, they laughed at her. "You go to the ball," they said. "What would you do there in your rags and dirty face?" "No, Cinderella, go back to your place among the ashes, that's where a kitchen girl like you belongs." So, her stepsisters and their mother went off in a carriage to the king's palace, leaving Cinderella behind. She sat down by the fire, feeling very lonely and sad, and began to cry softly. As she sat there in the dim light, she heard a voice calling her name, "Cinderella, Cinderella." Startled, she looked up to see an old woman standing in front of her. The woman wore a long red cloak, high-heeled shoes, and a tall black hat. Cinderella promised to follow her godmother's instructions. Then she got into the beautiful carriage. The footman closed the door, the coachman urged the horses, and off she went to the ball. When she arrived, everyone at the palace was amazed. No one had ever seen such a lovely girl in such a beautiful dress. They thought she must be a great princess from another country. The guests made way for her, and when the prince saw her, he fell in love right away. He danced with her all night, and everyone believed he would choose her as his bride. As the clock was about to strike 12, Cinderella remembered her godmother's warning. She said goodbye to the prince and hurried home. She got there just as the clock struck 12. Suddenly, the coachman and footmen turned back into rats and mice, and the carriage turned into a pumpkin. When her stepsisters came home later, they found Cinderella in her old, shabby dress, sitting by the fireplace. The 2 ugly sisters talked a lot about the beautiful princess at the ball, not knowing it was Cinderella. The next evening, after they went to the ball again, the fairy godmother appeared. Once more, Cinderella went to the palace in a fancy carriage, wearing an even more beautiful dress. The prince danced with her all night again. But on the 3rd night, Cinderella was having so much fun that she forgot her godmother's warning until she heard the clock start to strike 12. Remembering that her fine clothes would change back, she panicked and ran out of the room. The prince chased after her, but in her hurry, she lost one of her glass slippers. The prince stopped to pick it up, giving Cinderella a chance to escape. Just as she crossed the yard, the clock finished striking, and her beautiful clothes changed back to rags. When the prince came out, he couldn't find the lovely princess. The guards told him only a ragged kitchen girl had left. He returned to the ball with just the glass slipper to remember her by. The next day, the king sent out a proclamation that the prince would marry the lady whose foot fit the slipper. Many ladies tried it on, but no one could fit it. Finally, they arrived at Cinderella's house. The oldest stepsister tried first but couldn't fit her big toe into the slipper. Then her mother told her to cut it off, saying it didn't matter if she was lame if she could be the prince's bride. So, the sister cut off her toe, but the slipper still didn't fit. The other sister tried next. She managed to squeeze her toes in, but her heel stuck out. Her mother urged her to cut off her heel, saying the same thing. After she cut it off, the slipper was still too small. Then Cinderella stepped out from where she had been hiding and asked to try on the slipper. Her stepmother and sisters were angry and tried to stop her, but the herald said every woman should have a chance. He helped Cinderella try on the slipper, and it fit perfectly. Everyone was shocked as Cinderella took out the other slipper and put it on. Instantly, her ragged dress turned back into the beautiful ball gown, and she stood before them as the lovely lady the prince had fallen in love with. The prince was thrilled to find her again, and they got married right away in a grand celebration. The wicked sisters were so jealous that they turned green with envy. They became uglier every day until no one could stand to look at them anymore. Meanwhile, Cinderella became more and more beautiful, and she lived happily with the prince forever.